What's going on, family, and welcome back to MicToss. And before we jump in, I just want to say happy Father's Day to all of the fathers that are watching. Today is going to be a milestone episode for us, as the guy that I have on is not just a special guest, but he's my father. And no, not my spiritual father, but my natural father. And this is so just wowing to me because me and my father have not had a smooth journey. It's been a little bumpy here and there. But today is a testament that no matter how crazy things have gotten, we've always came back together through love and relationship, because no matter what, this is my guy. And in America, fatherlessness is a thing, and not only in America, but also in the church, as there are many gifted men and women that are going through and living through the wounds of the father relationship, the loss of a father, or even just things that they can't understand. They're living through that. And this type of conversation is one that I hope you can find the grace and the courage to have the tough conversations so that you and your father can, in the spirit of reconciliation, come back together in the institution that God has joined together, called the family. Me and my father, it is not a perfect journey that we've had, but it is one of resilience. And I cannot wait to jump into this conversation now. Let me tell you, my father is a street dude. He's a hustler, but at the same time, he has grit. He has so much charisma, and there's so much about me that is clearly etched in the DNA of who he is that now I can put my finger on. So y'all help me welcome my dad, Robert Tubbs Jr. Dad, how are you,
what's going on? What's going on, man? What you up to, baby?
Just taking it easy, man. Pop, thank you, of course, for taking some time to just chill and come by the podcast that your son has started. I'm so happy to have you on.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I wouldn't miss it, man. You asked me to do it, and I'm proud of you for what you got going on. You know,
Yes,
so
sir.
I had to show up for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Now, of course, in us, always, we've just been open and honest about our history and our journey together that has really brought us to this place. But before we dive into that, Dad, why do you think it is easy for sons and fathers to go time without talking to one another, as opposed to just saying, I miss you? Why do you think it's easier for them to just dip out?
Let me see, to answer that question. I feel like it just depends on the situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a situation where, you was younger, you was raised with your grandmother who had you in the church doing different things.
Yeah.
I'm running the streets, stuff like that, saying, around you when I can be. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Birthdays, stuff like that, which that might not have been enough. Then, we definitely had our moments where, me and mom wasn't getting along. So at the same time, I'll come get you. She might be mad at me, come back, get you, stuff like that. So, I might throw the towel in, like, hell with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Once you get older, you would know what it is. But I think me probably playing it that way possibly drove a wedge along with me going away to prison,
For sure. For sure. No, I completely get that. I think, of course, there are many times that fathers and sons, of course, everyone chooses their own path, but it is about being intentional about finding the ways for those paths to kind of cross, so that no matter what path a father or a son chooses, that doesn't come between or in the middle of having that relationship. Now, that, of course, you mentioned it, in the streets, grinding, doing what you have to do. In your younger years, what kind of caused you or made you get into just the hustle, the grind of making it happen and getting to the bag?
I mean, personally, for real, a lot of people that know me, you know what I'm saying, from where I'm from, they, I really didn't have to get in the streets for real. You know what I'm saying? My mom gave me everything, which is your grandma, Nana, she gave me everything growing up and stuff like that. So it was just, what I'm saying, I never forget, it was a time when I wanted these Jordans that came out. You know what I'm saying? And she would always, give me the money and stuff. But, she worked, got paid on Thursdays. So these Jordans came out. And I was like, yo, mom, I need these money for these J's. And she's like, well, hey, you know what, man? You probably have to wait the next week because I got some bills that's due and, things like that. So when next week came, they was all sold out. I couldn't get them. And at that point, I said, man, I really need to get my own money. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. Yeah. No, yeah, I completely get that. Now, with that lifestyle and doing the things that you did to one, not only provide for you, but as I got older, I really started to see that it wasn't just a matter of provision for you and the clothes, the shoes, or whatever the case is, because clearly, as you can see, my dad knows how to put it on.
Hey, I do a little something, man. You know what I'm saying? It rubbed off on you. I'll be checking you out.
That's right. That's right. With all of those things, do you feel like you were still able to show up for me and even my other siblings in ways that really mattered?
Yeah, for sure. When it came to you, it was real learning experience. I mean, I'm still
For
learning
sure.
now, but at the same time, I had you when I was 17. You know what I'm saying? So I was real young then. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So at that same time, I'm still, you know what I'm saying, focused on me versus it should have been more focused on you and things
Right.
like that. But as the tide turned, I feel that I became a better father down the line with some of your siblings. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, for sure.
at the same time, I think that's the best part about it though, man. Just becoming a
For
better
sure.
father
Right.
overall and realizing it and having that time to sit down in that cell and be like, man, you're missing a lot of things, for example.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was thankful to, you know what I'm saying, make it home before you graduated, but
Yeah,
then
true.
I missed your sister's graduation.
Right.
You
For
see what I'm
sure.
saying? Her prime, yeah, I helped financially even though I
Yeah.
wasn't around, but just the presence of me being around, you know what I'm saying?
For
So
sure.
that was cool.
Yeah, and I think that is really a good point to just kind of bring up for, fathers and sons that are going through whatever their spat is. I think it's always good to just know sometimes the way a father or even a son shows up for one another, that could be the way that they feel that they should show up, but may not always be the way that the other person needs them to show up. I feel like in prison, you needed me to show up for you in the form of communication. Just even if I thought of you in my mind, me thinking of you was not me showing up for you in the way you needed me to. You needed the text, you needed the email, you needed the responsiveness, or even sending pictures. You needed those things that went farther beyond me just missing you. And so I think taking that premise and applying that to whatever the situation is between a father and a son, or a father and a daughter, it's important to know that it's not enough to just show up, but you have to show up in the way that the other person needs you to in efforts for you to be effective. Now, you showing up in the way that the other person needs you to does not mean that you neglect what your own needs are, but it just shows that in a relationship, no matter if that's a loved one, a parental one, or whatever the case is, there has to be that selflessness to show up for the other person. Now, of course, you talked about being in prison. Man, Dad, what did being in prison and being away kind of teach you about being a father or even a man?
Well, definitely being a man, you got to stand on your own too. You know what I'm saying? When you're in that place, you know what I'm saying? Just like even in the free world, as I say, the free world, where we at now,
For sure.
crying doesn't do anything. Complaining don't do anything. You know what I'm saying? So you have to sit back and just take it on the chin and ride with it and do the best you can. I'm
Right.
really not the spiritual type of guy, but a lot of people say God ain't gonna put nothing on you that you can't handle.
For
But
sure.
sometimes some people can't handle it. You know what I'm saying? That's why they
Yeah.
be in there, they commit suicide, do different things like that. You got to be a strong individual to be mentally strong to be in there when, you know what I'm saying, you're taken away from your loved ones and stuff like that. So, being in there as far as the father side of things made me want to strive to be a better father, to not be taken away from the
Yeah.
situation again.
For
But
sure.
once again, when you home, people will say money ain't everything, which is not everything.
True.
But when you don't have money, it becomes everything.
Hello.
Because when you don't have money, you can argue with your wife about bills. You know what I'm saying? Kids ain't eating. Kids going to school being talked about their clothes and, bringing their self-esteem down. So at that point, it all reverts back to money.
Right.
So being that I'm the kind of guy that grew up with things and wanted to be a provider for my kids and family, that's really, you know what I'm saying, 80% of what I know. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
20%, yeah, I know other ways to get money, you know what I'm saying, which is why, you know what I'm saying, I'm working now. But at the same time, it's easy to revert back to what you best known for, you know what I'm saying, when your family is in need.
Yeah. You know, and this isn't anything that I have mentioned yet until now on the podcast. Of course, my wife, she's pregnant, so a baby is coming. And of course, you're about to be a granddad for the first time.
Can't wait.
And it is just crazy as I am in the seat of a husband and a pending father, and really just getting older and wiser, man. There are things that I feel like life experiences have forced me to give you so much more grace than I did when I was younger and didn't understand. Because you said something that was really good. And this is one of the things that I want to point out, man. Wisdom and even the spirit of wisdom comes in all shape, forms, and sizes, meaning that the person doesn't have to be a preacher or a speaker or a billionaire to be able to give you wisdom. If there's one that is reflective enough in their life experiences, they can give wisdom. And I think one of the things that you just said, Dad, that I was like, man, that's actually good. Money isn't everything, but when you're outside and you don't have it, money becomes everything.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because at that point, a lot of those contentions can be around what we don't have, which then puts pressure on the man, puts pressure on the father to now have to figure out, how am I going to provide the clothes, the food, the vehicle, the bills? How am I going to provide? And all of those things are centered around money. And that is, I think that's just wisdom and a different perspective about money. And of course, even understanding that isn't a green light to say, of course, well, when you have those pressures, do what you need to do from a, negative end to get money. But sometimes that's just how the cards fall. And I understand that, especially more so now that I'm a father. Now, of course, I'm not going to go out and do anything crazy.
For sure.
When it's time for me to provide. But man, just thinking about those things, like the bills now and the baby shower, and then even when we have the baby, if my wife is coming off work, what I make, is that enough to sustain? And what happens? What other means can I? All of those things start to rush in, and as I'm understanding and seeing that, I can give a lot more grace to understand the pressures that you may have been under, in addition to still funding the lifestyle that you had. I think one of the, and I talked about it, the contentions from my end to you was my lack of communication when you needed that communication the most. While you were in prison and I wasn't texting, and man, looking back, I know in our personal relationship, I've apologized for this, but looking back, I could definitely see where I dropped the ball, because when you would be home, we talking, we fishing, we going shopping, all of those type of things. And then when you were down, it was like I was silent and masked under, oh, I'm busy. Now, not to say that I wasn't, but I always get your thought of, you aren't too busy that you can't just send a quick message. How did those moments make you feel when you needed me to be there in the mode of communication and I wasn't?
Well, for me, we'll take it back, being that I, went away twice. What I'm saying? The first time, I understand, you young, you know what I'm saying? You was a young kid then, you know what I'm saying? So, you had a life just, coming into one, learning yourself and having friends and, first getting your license, you want to go out, have as much fun as you can. So, I kind of understood it then, you know what I'm saying? I kind of understood it. I wouldn't expect, what I'm saying? Even like your little brother, you know what I'm saying? He's 13. So I wouldn't expect, if I went away, for him to be adamant about, man, I got to really stay in touch with dad. Right. He know dad gonna call. But see, one of the things that people may understand and may not, if they never dealt with anybody that went to federal prison, is that, when you in there prior to COVID, you would only get 300 minutes a month. I don't care how much money you got. You only get 300 minutes a month. So you look at 30 days. You can't even call, and calls are 15 minutes a call. You can't even call every day for 15 minutes. You see what I'm saying? You got to break down 10-minute calls. So now I'm the guy who, back then was going with my now wife
Right.
You know, I'm calling home, trying to see what's going on, trying to keep things in line. But at the same time, it's like I'm neglecting everybody else as well because you wasn't in the household with her.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I wasn't calling you, which I could have called you back then. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't calling mom like that, even though mom was looking out and stuff. You know, I would call every now and again. And that's what I mostly got in trouble for in there is buying the unfortunate people phone minutes. You see what I'm saying? To have extra minutes.
Right.
But at the same time, I really understood it back then.
Right.
Now, going forward, the second time I just went in 18, you know, you're a grown man.
Yeah, so, for sure.
You know, coming home, having those years home with you, and we, like you say, kicking it, fishing, shopping, just hanging out, doing the things that go on. I say, well, man, when I'm in here, he not really reaching out. You know what I'm saying? But I'm once again set with the phone minutes, which is cool. But prior to me coming home the first time, they introduced core links, which is the computer thing. State people have JPay, but it's the computer thing. And that you can, you know, text as much as you want to. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, man, you know, it was crazy that the communication, if I reach out, it would be days in between, you know, me and you contacting each other. And I'm like, well, I know he can't be that busy. You feel what I'm saying? Because when you home, if I'm around you or anybody for that matter, even including myself, people pick their phone up and text all the time.
Exactly.
So when they doing that, it's like, and then I'm not getting the messages coming back through. I'm like, well, man, what's really going on? You know, people that's locked up say it's a saying when you, it's like out of sight, out of mind. You know what I'm saying? When a person is around, people be around. When you go home, people forget about you. You know what I'm saying? And then it just be like, you know, how do your loved ones forget about you? You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we made it past that. So, you know what I'm saying? We hear it and praying all the time that I ain't going nowhere else. You feel me?
Come on with it. Come on with it. And I think to even, you know, further level that playing field, because, you know, around that time, as we were trying to figure things out, even with my communication, and there are many people, if you know me personally, they're always saying things about me and communication, and I don't answer or talk or whatever the case is. But I don't want to use that as an excuse, because what is more important than your habits of character? And I'm speaking about myself. What is more important than my habits or just my ways is sometimes how those ways make the other person feel. And so you have to be selfless in those type of moments, which looking back, I wasn't as selfless as I should have been to consider how my lack of communication made you feel, even if, and this is where I level the playing field, because there are some that I would even talk to at that time, and they would say things like, well, you know, you didn't do things to put him there. And this is true. I personally did nothing to end you up in prison. However, just because I didn't do something to end you up there, that does not mean that I can't still just be a son and communicate with my father as he's going through. So I think that goes to that selflessness portion, that there are times, even through bumpy roads, none of that is too much of an excuse to just be consistent when someone else needs you the most.
For sure.
And so I really think that's a good wisdom point for people to take home as they're trying to mend relationships with fathers. And we don't know how bad it could be. I'm sure there are people that have had situations with fathers that are worse than ours, but just taking a moment to try to be selfless, to think about how the other person feels in this moment can allow you to move in more grace if saving the relationship is really something that's in your heart to do, which I think it should be in the spirit of reconciliation. Now,
not to cut you off, but you know, like a lot of people, you know, like they always say, it's always somebody doing worse than you. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of relationships doing worse than what ours was. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
But at the same time, you know, I want to speak for, you know, myself more than anything, but, you know, just communicating with guys behind the wall that, you know, we don't expect you to reach out to us every day. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you decide to do.
Got it.
You see what I'm saying? But it's, like I say, 30 days in a month, 365 in a year. So at the same time, you know, if you just reach out 2-3 days out of a week, and it's not, you have to, it doesn't take much. like I say, with the core links and the JPay now, it's just a simple send a text message,
Just
email.
like a text.
Hey man, just thinking of you, man. Love you, man. Just get back at me, man. It might be a day or so before I get with you. Like I say, it's just all the communication. It's not like a person expect for you to sit back and dedicate all of your time and day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To communicate with somebody. It's just the fact of you communicating and a person feeling like, man, they still want to be in tune with.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And not only that, it just depends on what kind of father did you have, because you have some guys that be in the street that don't do anything for their kids. So if the relationship is broke before you go in, then there's no need for nobody to complain when they go in.
Exactly.
But if it's not that way, then a person would think that it should be different. You feel what I'm saying? Just to, kind of clear it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, when you be like, hey, I didn't do anything to put them there. Of course you didn't. Right. You see what I'm saying? Of course you didn't. But at the same time, when you say that to yourself, a person should also ask themselves, not as a kid. Some kids can nowadays, because kids and the way they think and the way they talk now is a whole lot different from back in the day. Yeah. But at the same time, ask yourself this: did I reap any of the benefits that put him in prison?
Oh, that's good.
So if you reap some of those benefits too, and now those benefits are taken away, because you're gonna feel it as well. Yeah. Whether it's I need, hey dad, I need $100, or hey pops, can I get this? Once that's kind of taken away, and and it's a void there now, it's got to hit you in your mind. Man, if pops was home, I know I would have. Pops was home,
exactly.
So that hitting your mind should be enough to be like, man, hey pops, man, I miss you, man, I hate you in there, man. But it's just a, you know what I'm saying? It's deeper than, you know what I'm saying? I didn't put him there, or people feeling like that. It's more to it that I feel people should think about.
That's a really good perspective. So in our journey, there would be times that we would communicate and talk. And I remember when it was around the time that you were about to come home, we were talking kind of consistently there. I was, excited about you coming home, and we were thinking about Thanksgiving, doing that together, the whole nine. And then you'd actually came home a bit sooner than you had told me that you were coming home. And I was a bit, kind of hurt by that, because I'm like, oh man, like I was expecting you to come home on a specific day. You came home a bit earlier without telling me that you came home, but you had your reason. And then of course, chime in and correct me if I'm wrong. Your reason was more so, to show how it feels to not be communicated with when someone can communicate with you.
No, yeah, that's pretty much what it was. It was just like you say, I would email, and it would, like I say, be days in between, maybe even weeks sometimes before I get a message back. And you know what I'm saying? In my mind, I'm just, because prior to me going in, when I went in, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know when the TikTok came out, but I went in 18. I think it might have came out after that. This go around.
Yeah,
I'm not for
somewhere.
Sure. So for me to come home and then kind of see this stuff, and it's like, man, my son is on here doing this, but he ain't have enough time to hit me. So it's a true saying: hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? So I was hurt behind your actions once I, when I came home and really seen what it was. Like, man, so I was just feeling like, yo, man, he felt it wasn't that important to talk to me or reach out to me when I was at a limited access to communication other than the emails I was sending, and I was sending them, but I wasn't getting no response. So I say this will be the easiest way for me to connect with him. But in between time, I will at least try to call and tap in with him just to hear his voice. Right. You know what I'm saying? See what's going on. So now with all of this happening, hell, when I come home, I'm gonna wait a minute before I you know what I'm saying, reach out to him.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that was, and I feel like that was around 2022 time.
It was. November 2022.
Yep. And when I had found out that you were home, and I was waiting on you to come home at the day that you were, when I found out that you were home, and the whole thought behind it, I was hurt. I was like, oh man. And so when we had our time of talking to just kind of try to iron those things out, we just didn't see eye to eye. Again, I think that's because of, in some areas, the lack of selflessness or whatever the case is, that we didn't see eye to eye. But that ended in us not talking. What, as my dad, do you wish I understood more about what you were trying to show me, to communicate? What do you wish I understood during that situation that I just couldn't see?
Well, let me see. I don't really know how to put it. It's kind of like, being that you never been to prison, which I doubt you'll ever go, period. Not unless you have to do something to protect your family or something like that. Other than that, I can't see anything happening. But some people really don't understand until they're in that situation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you won't feel the pain of one of your friends or somebody who lost their dad when you still got yours. Now, when you lose your dad, then you might be like, man, I really know what it feels like.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying? Because now you lost your dad. But at the same time, all you can do is just sympathize with a person.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? But it's like, I don't really, it's hard for me to put in words, being that you know what I'm saying? Until you in that situation, that's when you will really understand it more. But I can probably say with confidence that me coming home and not communicating with you may have made you feel like, man, I kind of see what he was talking about a little bit.
For sure. For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, I just wanted to stop and tell you thank you so much for tuning in to MicToss. I hope you are enjoying this conversation and the content as much as I am. But did you know that the majority of people that watch these podcast episodes are not subscribed? So can you do me a huge favor and go and hit subscribe to be sure that you are fully bought into the MicToss fam, and turn on that notification bell so every time MicToss has an episode, you are aware of it. This would help us so much to just ensure that MicToss becomes everything that it's supposed to be and reaches every audience it's supposed to. Thank you so much for your love and your support and making sure that MicToss can reach its full potential. Let's get back.
So I just feel like that whole situation right there, and then even coming home, and when we finally did talk and, having a little argument and, what led to us not talking, I just believe on both ends, it was a part of both of us not really accepting responsibility.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To the fact, you know what I'm saying? More so, I wish I really had some of them old emails where I would be like, hey, son, I know we're not going through communication like that, but hey, man, I'm reaching out. And you'd be like, hey, Pops, man, I know I'm going to try to do better. But then we revert back to the same thing.
Of nothing.
So, versus me arguing with you through emails, I would just be like, yo, son, man, Pops feel like this and that. And so, it's kind of like, the definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. Yep. You see what I'm saying? So when it comes to that, it's kind of like, man, do he really, have a ill feeling because I was gone and left? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And I think the biggest thing that I want those who are watching to understand is you had your feelings and thoughts as to why doing that when you came home was important to you. And I had my feelings and thoughts as to why you doing that when you came home was not of the most importance. I think from my end, I'm thinking, man, this time has been gone and these things have been missed. I think we should get right to making up for lost time. But no matter what the specifics are, the thread between both of our stories is not being able to fully understand the other person's point of view, which led to, I think at the end of that conversation, we're just like, all right, well, that's going to be that. I think I was like, well, yeah, you're my dad. I'm always going to respect you, but we're just going to be cordial. Like, don't expect me to reach out or anything of that sort. But what is crazy is from 2022, I think that was December, until we reconnected.
I think that was Christmas Day. It was Christmas Day, I think, when that happened.
Because I came to give gifts.
Yeah, it was like Christmas Day, and that was like our first time. And I came home, the 3rd of November.
Yep.
And we didn't physically talk until
Christmas Day
of 2022.
Yep. And then I
we
can't
went
remember
on the spiel.
When we reconnected. I feel like it was 2023 for sure.
Oh, no, it was definitely 2023.
Yeah.
What was going on then? It was maybe a holiday or something going on then too, because you came back in and you was at Nana house.
Yep.
And matter of fact, I think I barbecued and you cooked something.
Yep.
And then from there we exchanged dishes, and then from there it was just kind of like it was kind of like on and popping. Yeah.
Correct. I think from 2022 until we reconnected in 2023, I feel like on my end, and I don't think I ever told you this, throughout that whole time, irrespective of my feelings, what my thoughts were, there was just something in me, man. I was praying for you all the time. I'd always tell my wife, I was like, Lord, you know, I'm just praying, Lord, I feel like a day is going to come, that reconnection is going to happen. Father, keep my heart soft, keep my heart open, because I've always wanted to, have a relationship with you. There's so many things about who you are, even down to, I mean, you're extremely funny. I'm funny. You know, some people may not think that, but I'm funny. You dress, I dress, you know, of course, you know, back then, all of my dressing was like church clothes, but now it's a tad bit different.
Brooks Brothers.
Exactly. And so a lot of who you are is just etched in me. And the older I got, the older I saw it. That just made me want to be like, man, all of this other stuff is just things that we can work out, because what is larger to me is having a relationship with my dad, especially as I was starting to come into fatherhood. That's how I was feeling, and allowing my heart to just be open, so that when we were at Nana's house in the kitchen, I think you were like, yeah, man, when are y'all gonna start trying for kids? And if my heart was not soft and my heart was just so closed because of, catch this, what my feelings were that didn't allow me to at least be selfless enough to think about it from my dad's point of view, my heart would have been so tight that him talking to me, I would have just been in the kitchen and dead silence.
Well, you know, for me, it was the same thing. You know, during that time, it was things that transpired with me, you know, my wife, your sister, your little brother, where we'll go do things. And like I say, you know, I don't have no social media at all. So just to actually know that we're doing some stuff and having fun that you could have been invited to, you know, weighed on me as well, because I know that, you know, your sister, she'll post stuff, little Robert will post stuff. You may see it from their page. And at the same time, I know it might be like, a dang, man, you know, I wouldn't mind being there. And for me, it was I wouldn't mind him being here. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, just the kind of stubbornness of both of us, you know what I'm saying? You know, during that time, it was, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like it was the easiest for me either. Even though, you know, I can be one of those cold-hearted people like, hey, man, you know what? You know, and I'm a Scorpio at that. So, you know what I'm saying? Hey, man, you know, it is what it is. I'm writing you off. I'm writing you off. But at the same time, it's easier, you know, and what's so crazy is it's easier for me to do a sibling like that before I could ever do my child like that.
For sure. You feel
what I'm saying? Definitely when I was involved in your life. You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
So it was, like I say, it was never like I was never involved in your life. Yeah, I could have been in your life more, but like, you know, I remember, man, back in the day, it'd be so crazy. You know, I used to think, you know, when your grandma Pearl started taking you to church, man, and stuff like that, and it seemed like, I guess that's when that spirit bug got in you. I was like, man, this little nigga crazy, man. You know, you run around the house when it's my turn to watch you and shit, you know, you run around the house with a towel around your neck, and phone, praying and coming to touch me. I'm, you know, back then I'm smoking weed. I'm high, like, man, what you getting the hell on somewhere? You are? But yeah, you know what I'm saying? But it was real though. You feel what I'm saying?
For sure.
It's like, you know, just all of those moments. I have special moments of you as a toddler. You know what I'm saying? That I remember, you know what I'm saying, and things of that nature. So it wasn't, like I say, it wasn't like I'm dealing with somebody that I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Or was never around. So yeah, those moments of us being closed off, you know, and my wife would say it all the time, man, you should just call him. You should just call him. But me, you know, I'm being stubborn, like, hey, man, you know, I mean, you know, it is what it is, man. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, in my mind, I'm like, eventually it'll come to something. And if I really felt like that as well, you wouldn't have had to worry about me asking you when you're having to get, because I wouldn't have said nothing to you. You know what I'm saying? But once again, I'm like, hold on. Let me really do a temperature check and see if this really where we at.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And, you know, it is, again, just like father, like son. And I feel like we were literally in the same head and heart space, just in two different cities. And so having that moment of just reconnecting, man, one of the things that I would say to any son or any father that is going through a spout of disagreement or a lack of understanding, allow your heart to be open. We can't tell you to not be hurt. We can't tell you to not have your feelings. Those things are valid. But what we can tell you is just don't allow your heart to be so hardened that you can't come into the feeling and experience of what it's like to reconnect with the man that God put in your life. And for me, being spiritual, that's one of the things I was like, man, this isn't just some father that chose me. You didn't choose me. There had to be something specific about me, my DNA, my makeup, the way I think, the way I show up, the way that I, come even into the church space. There has to be something about me that God knew that I needed from you. That's why he made you my father. And for me to not have that relationship, I kind of felt like that was in some ways me not doing the service that I needed to understand who you are so that I can better understand who I am and why God put you there.
Yeah, that you know what I'm saying? Like what you're saying when you were saying like to the fathers and the son, on both sides, more than anything. The only thing that's really gonna kind of make that work is understanding.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? That's it. That's the only thing that's gonna make it work. If you don't have understanding on either end, you're never gonna be able to sit down and really have a real conversation to try to mend what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And when I say that, the understanding, if you are a toddler, or if you are a baby, we can't expect you to understand.
Exactly.
But if you have any kind of memorable moments with these individuals, you should have some kind of understanding. Even if you are younger, we have to understand, like, when I left away the first time, you were younger, but you was running around, we was kicking it and stuff that you remember and things of that nature. So when you're able to remember those type of things like that, we have to be able to understand that, man, that's a kid when I left. I can't expect them to reach out to me, because like I say, back in the day, there was no JPay. It was all writing a hand letter. I got to understand, I can't expect this child to write a hand letter. But every now and again, if the birthday is coming up and the mom is somewhat still cool with the baby dad to just write your dad, I love your dad, happy birthday, scribble, scrabble, whatever it is, that's cool enough. But once you become older, if that individual is taken away from you for a long time, just say you're 8 when he leave and now you're 18 when he come home. During that time frame, as you become 18, we would have expect for you to reach out a little more.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Just a little more. But if you're young, we can't expect that. And as a man being locked up, you have to expect that from your child. Man, they not gonna reach out like that, so hey, I gotta put my time in. Right now is when I feel like I gotta put 90% of the time in in this communication, through your call and through whatever you do. Even if you write your child a letter and the mother read it, or you send it to your mom or somebody in your family and they read it to your child, we have to do the communicating until it's a situation where it can be a 50-50 joint. Some people will talk bad. The mothers may talk bad about the father. And if the father is with the child, the father may talk bad about the mother. One of my close friends is kind of going through something like that, but he's not locked up. It's just a situation where him and his baby mama, they done moved on. So at the same time, his daughter just graduated, but at the same time, she just sent a message to him that was wild crazy. You know what I'm saying? When this man, I know for a fact that this man has been doing things for his daughter.
For sure.
And things of that nature. I know this for sure. But it was a message that she sent, like, yo, man, this gotta be, he like, man, her mom gotta be telling him this. I say, well, listen, bro. I say, man, your daughter old enough to know, man, that you know what kind of person you are.
For sure.
So she must feel some kind of way like this as well. And sometimes it just leads to you call and ask for something, you may not be able to get it right now.
Exactly. True.
You know what I'm saying? But then you but I bet you're doing it for your other family. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes you can't get everything. So it's just a situation where understanding is more than anything.
Yeah, Dad, what would you say, now that we've, been reconnected for a nice amount of time now, what would you say works in our father-son relationship? You had mentioned, we don't talk every day. We don't talk every week.
For sure.
We're definitely talking at least every couple of weeks. That's something that works for us. What are some things that you think work for us now that we're back reconnected?
Once again, it's just the understanding, man. You know, me understanding you,
sure.
you understanding me. You know what I'm saying? So from there, it's like, okay, I can sit back and say, man, you know what? I really shouldn't feel as hurt as I did when I was in there, even though that hurt can't go nowhere because of the situation you in.
Exactly.
But I shouldn't feel as hurt as I did because hell, I'm home now. We still kind of go through that a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
But it's definitely greater now knowing that it ain't just a, man, hope he ain't forgetting about me. It's out of sight, out of mind. It ain't that no more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It ain't that. I'm here. You know what I'm saying? With at the drop of a dime, anytime you come back home, you know, hey man, I can reach out to Pops, you know, and you know, so being that that's being said, then, you know, anytime I could, hey man, listen, man, I'm coming down your area, man. I want to bump into you, or you gonna be, you know, I can check in with you. Hey, you got anything going on with the, you know, with service and stuff like that? You're gonna be around. Okay, hey man, I'm gonna come to town this weekend. So it's just the knowing that it wasn't just because I was in there.
Oh,
that's the communication was how it was. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So you know, you know, but once again, you know, even on both ends, it can still be better even from out here. But you know what I'm saying? We making it work is working for us, and it can't do nothing but get better.
Exactly. And I think another from the angle of practicality, from a son's perspective, when not having that time to really get to know a person, get to know your dad. Sometimes it could be like, oh man, well, I don't know what to talk about, or, oh, we may say 2-3 words and that be it. Now we're just sitting in silence. A practical thing that also works for us. We talk a lot about things that we find funny in common. So yesterday we were talking, and my dad showed me a picture of fish. We love going fishing. That was something that we've done since I was a kid. And so I know his fishing spots. I know the type of fish, you know, he get. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about this yesterday. Some of the poles that I have are poles that I had since before you went to jail. So it's like a lot of those things. If you're trying to get into the rhythm of talking to your father and trying to build that relationship, try to do it around things that you both have in common, whether that's movies or if that's sports or if that's cooking. Me and my dad, we both cook. So I'll send him some, he'll make a joke about what I'm cooking. I'll make a joke about what he cooking, you know, him getting older and bigger at the same time. Right. A lot of those things, we just kind of are practical ways that you can just make the relationship work as you guys are starting to grow in your relationship more. Man, Pop, I think this was just a really good, real, raw, and honest conversation to allow those watching to see the reality of what bumps in the road in a father-son relationship can look like, but then also to see how both sides have understanding and are selfless so that we can come together, because at the end of the day, the relationship is more important. In that, Dad, what is something that you would tell fathers that are trying to reconnect with their children?
Just be patient. That's it. Just be patient. You know, it ain't gonna, no matter what you're doing in life, it ain't gonna happen overnight. Sometimes you might get lucky by playing the lotto and it can happen overnight.
For sure.
But even then, it might not happen overnight because you might have been playing for a whole year. So that whole year wasn't overnight. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you just have to just be patient. You know what I'm saying? Just be patient, and more than anything, have some understanding. As long as you patient and have some understanding, I believe everything will work out. You know what I'm saying? I believe everything will work out.
Yeah. And I'd say even for sons who have a desire to reconnect, one, keep that heart open. Two, recognize that there are things that you do naturally in your life that you don't know why you do them. You don't know where that comes from. Things that may not be so good, or things that you do successfully. One of the things, even though I'm not in the streets, I have a level of hustle and grit about me that show up in any area that I put my hands to. And I attribute that not only to my mom, because that's another conversation, but I also attribute that to my father. He is not going to allow something to go down, and he does nothing about it. And when I say go down, he's not going to allow his family to go down. He's not going to allow the finances to go down. He's not going to allow cars to go down, and him not get his hands dirty and do everything he can to make it work. That is the same character that's in my DNA. And now I have the opportunity to put my finger on exactly where that comes from. So for every son that has these characters and these character traits and all the good things that make you, you know that that comes from a DNA that you may not be able to fully understand if you're not connected to your father. So keep that heart open. Recognize that the DNA comes from somewhere else, and then just be prayerful. Be prayerful that the Lord would allow the time to come back together. Dad, I just want to pray for you and for the fathers that are watching. Father, I thank you for this conversation. Father, first, I thank you for reconciliation. And I thank you for bringing me and my father back together, that we may, although not perfect, Father, be a testimony to others that may be in the same situation that we are in. And Lord, I thank you so much that you don't call us to perfection. Lord, you call us to obedience and consistency. So Lord, I'm asking you that you would put in our hearts the obedience to follow you into the spirit of reconciliation, that we will come back together in the institution of family that you have put together. Give both sides, the son and the father, the understanding that they need so that they can see each other the proper way. This I pray in your son Jesus' name. Amen. Thank y'all so much for joining and being a part of it.
Hold on, before we close it out, I got a question to ask you.
Yeah, Pop.
It could be just a one answer question.
Okay.
So now that you have my grandbaby on the way.
Yes, sir.
If put in the same situations as me, would you do the same?
Whoa, that is here's what I can say.
Hold on, we can say this.
Okay.
Anything besides rob, steal, and kill.
Anything.
You can't rob, steal, or kill.
Okay.
You can't rob, steal, or kill, but would you do anything to be a provider for your family?
That's a loaded question. I wouldn't say I would do. Ooh, that's a loaded question. So many thoughts are coming to my mind right now. I'm going to say yes.
That's good. That's good. And
anything.
You don't always have to. You don't.
For sure.
In saying yes, it doesn't mean you always have to pick up a bag. It doesn't mean none of that. In this day and age now, man, even what we're doing right here on this podcast, you never know where this might take you to.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's just all about having that hustle. Me, I just chose to be in the streets in different ways. You know what I'm saying? But it's so much, you know what I'm saying? It's just so much different things you can do. You can revert to cutting grass. It's just doing whatever it takes to be a provider. And as long as you do that, you're going to be all right. You know what I'm saying? You'll be all right.
Exactly.
It's going to be fine.
See, my contention inside was me knowing the DNA that is in me, and then any other thoughts of technicalities that I had, which also just made me fall back to my DNA that I get from my dad, that I'm going to do whatever to make sure that mine is taken care of, especially as I'm coming into fatherhood.
Oh, and on the light side, you look too old to be in the games I used to be in. You look too old.
You ain't lying. You ain't lying. Man, thank y'all so much for tuning in to this episode. I hope y'all enjoyed something. Please drop in the comments anything that you have taken away or anything that you're going to try to implement in your relationship with your father. And Pop, happy Father's Day again.
Thank you, son.
I love you.
Happy early Father's Day to you too.
Hello.
Man.
Hell yeah. And you about to be a paw.
Man, listen, I'm gonna take on the name. That was my dad's name.
Yes,
I'm gonna
sir.
take it on.
Yes, sir. Yo, y'all have a good day, and we'll see you next Tuesday for MicToss. Peace.